All right. Um, so first up on the reading list is Nami.
Okay, so I'm not 100% finished so and ends at a sort of weird spot, but here it is. My foot stamped on the gas pedal furiously. Why wasn't the car moving? Behind me, I heard Janet whimper. I'll get you to your baseball practice, I snapped, trying to back out of the parking lot. We'll be late though. You're the one who wanted to get bubble tea beforehand. Now I can't start the car. I stamped at the gas pedal again. Finally, with a loud heave, the car started moving. I drove out of the parking lot, which was littered with all kinds of junk that no one wanted. Empty water bottles, remnants of cigarettes, and a couple old shopping bags were strewn all over the place. I drove out of the parking lot and into the street behind the red Toyota Prius. Impatiently, I honked the horn, even though the Toyota was just waiting for the red light to turn green and was doing nothing wrong. Once I dropped Jane, Once I dropped Janet off at her baseball practice, I was going to hang out with my friends. Of course, I wasn't allowed to. I was supposed to pick up some stupid angel hair pasta so that my mom could try a new spaghetti recipe. But in the but in the grand scheme of things, who needed angel hair pasta? Also, the name sounded gross. Who would want to eat pasta that was called hair? I wrinkled my nose at the thought and repeatedly honked the horn. The car behind me honked the horn. I knew the message. Stop. I didn't want to stop though. I was having a bad day and the only thing that could let it out was to give a good loud honk. It started honk there. I did it. And so then this is in the another perspective, the person at the back of the car. Um, so Derek seems angry. I don't know why. He's repeatedly honking the horn while I sit here trying to suck the bubbles out of the bubble tea. I don't know why he's mad. Today's Tuesday. Why would you hate Tuesday? It's baseball practice. However, I wanted to block out the noise of the horn, so I decided to busy myself with something. mm, Wait here, I lost my spot. With something else. I take out my phone and started researching Douglas firs. I like trees. They're so interesting and they're so different. High height, bark, grooves, pine needles, color. These are only some of the reasons that differentiate them from one another. My favorite is the big leaf maple because of the enormous leaves, but all are very interesting. I continue researching Douglas firs, meaning that I don't notice the lights of the cop car behind us. And then this is basically a different perspective of someone inside the cop car. So some gray pickup truck seems to be creating some commotion up the street. I was going to turn onto 34th because people are always speeding there, but there seems to be something on 40th, so I don't turn. I flashed my sirens right behind the pickup truck to signal they need to pull over to the side of the road. I can see the outline of the driver throw up his arms in exasperation and then pull over. I do, um, I do too. Before getting out of the car and walking over, I tap the glass of the window and the driver rolls it open. And there's where I finished.
Okay, Nami. Very good. Absolutely brilliant. Really, really great. All right. So it's fabulous. We've got these three scenes, this system for describing this multiple group of people in a short narrative by jumping from place to place. Very nice. I love your descriptions, Nami. It is just great. The physical descriptions, my foot stomped on the gas pedal. Um, um, you have lots of details, of gestures of the driver. Um, I love the descriptions. You've got lots of really good descriptions. The litter on the parking lot, the cigarettes, um, the water bottles. Um, I also to mention the driver who is Jane. Is that right? The driver's
No, the driver is Derek and the passenger is Janet.
oh
Janet.
who's sipping the bubble tea?
Janet.
Janet. Okay. So, but the great thing, sipping the bubble tea, pulling up the tapioca balls in the straw. Um, this mention of this detail is, as you mentioned, the bottles, but that it's a red Prius. Very specific. It gives us a really clear vision of what it is, and this frustration, is really great. Honking the horn for no reason. Um, it's good, and then this sort of side digression into the angel hair pasta, and calling it stupid angel hair pasta, which by the way is my favorite pasta. My daughter doesn't like it when I make it, but it is my favorite. On my own, I only eat angel hair pasta. But then pulling up, but moving with the idea, it's hair. Who would want to eat hair? That's also, really nice. Gives personality, to the character. And then Derek in the back seat wondering, what's going on here, and then moving and looking something up on the phone, looking up the Douglas fir. I do that all the time. And I read an article recently that said a big problem today is that we just are all distracted. And it's not necessarily distracted by a bad thing. I mean, it's like you think of a Douglas fir, it's exactly what I do. Oh, wow, let me look that up. But of course, it means you're not really there in the car looking out the window or just thinking. We're always occupied. So that's really wonderful. And, when someone reads this in the future, Nami, when someone's reading it 100 years from now, I mean, the real future, that little bit there really captures the moment today that really think anchors this story in 2021. In 1990, that would not have been true, would not have been true. No one could have looked up. It's really nice, and it describes a behavior, really beautiful. And then I love it, the policeman wondering what's going on with that gray truck and the tapping on the window. Very, very well done. Congratulations, you've got 3 people, 4 people that are interacting with each other. Very nicely done. Sarah.
All right. So next up on the list is Madeline.
Okay, hold on a sec. Last minute edits. Here we go. Now, Eleanor was 5 years old until the choosing day, which was one of the few holidays her family celebrated. She only had her parents and older siblings for friends. Eleanor was happy. They made good friends, she had decided long ago. With 2 older siblings, one was almost always available to play with her. And when they were both busy, she could play games by herself. Still, she was excited. On the testing day, she would take her personality test. Nobody was allowed to talk about their test, their questions, or their result. All Eleanor knew about the test was that afterwards, she would be assigned friends to match her personality. They would be grouped together at school and would always be there for each other. To Eleanor, that meant more playmates, more people to talk to. Mary and Justin had always told Eleanor that she talked a lot. Never in a mean way, never in a way that might cause conflict. Instead, they commented on how strong her lungs must be, how one day she might grow up to speak in front of a crowd to give lectures as some teachers do. Eleanor didn't want to be a teacher. She didn't want to be stuck in a classroom all day as she already was. She wanted to be a chooser. She wanted to look over personalities and fit them together like a jigsaw puzzle, assigning friends and spouses, making people happy, avoiding conflict. She practiced in school, pairing smart, patient Jackie with Ryan, who never knew the answers. She always found herself paired with Danica, the quiet, smart girl who always wore a smile. She knew, just knew, that Danica was going to be one of her assigned friends. She wasn't sure about the other 2, though. She wouldn't know for sure until the choosing day, the day after the test, when her group of friends would be announced. But that wouldn't be for 3 days, and the test wouldn't be for 2. Eleanor wondered what she would have to do to get ready. She wondered if she had to wear a dress. She didn't like dresses. They were often uncomfortable. They looked good on her dolls, though. Maybe she could get Mary to dress some up with her. And with that thought, the testing and the choosing left her mind, and Eleanor went to look for her sister. As it turned out, Eleanor did have to wear a dress. However, this one wasn't uncomfortable. It was one of Mary's old dresses, hand-me-downs saved just for Eleanor. This also happened to be the dress that Mary wore for the day of her testing 6 years ago. Eleanor wondered if Mary sat in the same seat that she sat in, waiting to receive her test. She probably didn't. The children were arranged by age. Eleanor was one of the oldest in her group, while Mary was one of the younger 5-year-olds. She was born in April. Eleanor was born in September. So was Danica. While the principal of the school talked about the importance of the occasion, Eleanor searched the seats near her for Danica. She didn't have to look for very long. Danica was only 3 seats to her left. Helpers started passing out papers, and Eleanor got hers face down, along with the pencil. You may start. The principal looked at his watch. Now. There was the sound of children flipping over their papers, and Eleanor started her test. When she was finished, and was reasonably sure she had answered each question honestly, she slipped her test into the drop box and, sorry, prepared to leave. Sorry, that's all I got. But afterwards, there's, assigned friends, so.
Okay, that's incredible, Madeline. I just can't believe how much you write, how much fine detail there's in there. I haven't been able to find any of my reading glasses for over a day, so all of this stuff is just slightly blurry, which makes me feel almost in some kind of a strange dream state. Detail. Just as with Nami, very nice detail. So I just want to start with this minor things. So you've got the paper face down, and then the teacher says, okay, it's time to go, blows the whistle, whatever it is, and then you have the sound of the papers turned over. This is excellent. I mean, I think all of you are doing this, and it is the key to making these short stories work, which is this attention to detail, the following through with the gestures. Really, really nice. And also nice that you introduced sound. We hear the rustling of it coming over. Now here, it's kind of interesting. You have these people relating to each other, in some cases directly, but other cases they're relating through actions, like through the dress. You know, she's wearing a dress that had been a hand-me-down, so then that connects her to this, to this person that's separated in time. I think that's really, really nice, and I think that extends this idea in a very profound way. And the whole idea that she is sort of a natural born chooser, that she hopes to be chosen as a chooser, identified as a chooser, but even so, she practices choosing in her own classroom amongst her friend group and prospective friend group. So she is not as annoying, certainly, as whatever the character was in Emma, who it's certainly not somebody you want to get caught with in a cocktail party or at a ball. But she is constantly sort of touching, in a sense, these other lives. Very nice. You can just think of those little critters, and this is a person trying to figure out how do they relate together. You have developed her personality in a nice way. She clearly is kind of a lonely person or a needy person. She likes friends. She's got these sisters. There's probably always somebody to play with, but when there isn't, then she can play alone. Nonetheless, she's really excited about this extension of the friend group. So it's also, I say that's really nice, Madeline, that we really feel there's a person here. And at the center of this sort of partly natural, partly to us unnatural, I don't know if it's utopian or dystopian future, since we don't have the rest of the story.
It's kind of supposed to be dystopian, but I haven't gotten to the rest of that yet. So
yeah, it feels like, whenever there's that kind of control, but really well done. I mean, just brilliant, really, really good. Yet another great story, guys. I've got to make a session sometime when you guys fail. I'm not sure how to do it, but I'm going to work at it. Maybe we should have a little meeting, how to make something that you guys couldn't rise to the occasion for. So thank you. Thanks a lot. Sarah, for the next person.
All right. Julia is the next one up.
I sighed. I had been walking for hours, and my other friend hung her head as we walked towards the theater. Finally, we arrived. I saw a kid with a pink doll, and she started to throw a tantrum in the middle of the stage. I sat down, ignoring the crying and whining sound of the kid. The magician stepped up the stage. He stared at the kid, who stopped crying. And the kid immediately stopped crying and he stomped off the stage with red eyes as red as apples. I glared at him. He just ruined the whole show as the magician was forced to cancel his greatest trick because of time. I turned my head towards the right side. Adults looked at their phones while some kids clapped and some kids rolled their eyes at the magician and fell asleep. I turned to the left, and then my eyes finally fixed on the magician. I saw my friends passing by. Over here, I shouted. Then I saw another surprise. The girl beside me was quiet and finally she left, muttering something about her brother. I leaned back down on my seat. My friend clapped as the magician played a clumsy trick. About 4% of the whole audience was focusing on the magician. Others left. It turned out that a magic show was not so fun after all. It's really short.
Okay, Julia, very, very nice. Listen, what's really great in this one is to me is just focus on the eyes, that you've got this central character and she is looking around and you keep coming back to her eyes. So it's so clear that she's here and she's looking this way, looking that way, looking the other way. Very, very nice. That I think really, really unifies it. And then you refer to eyes. You say that some of the kids clapped, some rolled their eyes. So I feel there's this really unification of this sort of consciousness of these people that are there, are singing, are engaged, or not engaged with what they ought to be, which is watching this magician. It sounds like a horrible audience. There's nothing worse than giving a live performance and not having the group with you. And I know that is something. I'm not a stand-up comic, but I do know that for people like stand-up comics and magicians, you've got to have the audience behind you. So you've really described something fabulous, which is a performance where the audience isn't there, where this primary relationship between the person on the stage and the people who are watching is in distress. I think that's a really, really nice interpretation of the theme of the writing prompt today, because that's layered on top of course, the relationship that the narrator has with all the different characters. Again, you're all doing it, so I'm just going to keep reinforcing it. You know, she begins trudging in the snow. Is that right? That's when you were talking really fast. Julia, does she begin walking? What's the first sentence?
Let me see. My feet trudged in deep snow.
Yeah, so she's trudging in the snow. So we've got a person and, you know, trudging in deep snow. I'm from California. I've not been to the snow very often. And the part that's shocked me the most is this deep snow. How do you walk in it? You know, I hate it. I've only done it a few times in my life. But it's so nice because it's very sensual. You've got a person, it's physical, it's real, and it really grabs you, trudging in the deep snow. And then, but more, I sigh. And again, we're all doing it, but I'm calling attention to it again. Someone needs to turn off, there's a hissing sound. Someone needs to turn off their, good, that's Juliet's, okay. The sighing, so we really have a person, they trudge, they sigh. The child in pink throws a tantrum, the character ignores it. Just lots and lots of looking around, lots of people, lots of things happening. Very nicely done, Julia. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sarah.
All right. Next up is Lena Kim. Lena with an I.
Okay. So, as I walked home from school, I glanced at the kids outside, playing basketball and soccer and baseball, somehow all combined into one game. They called it basket-based softball. For a second, one girl saw me watching, and I quickly shifted my gaze away, looking down at the sidewalk covered in chalk drawings. I pretended to be interested in them, trying to push the girl's attention away from me. but instead she walked up to me. Hey, do you want to join us? She asked. I stood there, paralyzed. I'd always tried to hide in the shadows, but here there was no shade, not a single tree. The only shelter from the beating sun was on the bench with the covering, which was inside of this basket-based softball court, with people sitting on it. I shuddered at the very thought. Sweat trickled down my forehead, but not from the heat. Robin? She asked. I flinched at my name. Oh, thanks, I managed quietly. She stared at me for a minute, then shrugged, getting back to the game. I watched as they laughed and played, shooting hoops and kicking balls into the net and making home runs. I've always been invisible. I looked around at the barren earth around the school. There wasn't a single plant, not a shrub, not a blade of grass, not even a weed. I'd always wanted to do something about the lack of nature. Instead of staying any longer and risking someone talking to me, I headed straight towards my house. It wasn't exactly home. Nothing really felt like home to me. It was just a house, my house. No, my mom and dad's house. They cared about me, but they just didn't go about it the right way. They tried to get me out into the world, out in the sunlight, when I'd rather be sitting in the shadows of a large redwood tree in the middle of the forest, drinking in pure nature. I reached a small forest. It wasn't exactly a forest, just a place full of grass and trees. And it was really small. Still, I made a split-second choice. I looked both ways and ran into the wilderness. I decided to climb a tree. I hadn't done that in years, ever since I fell from one at 4 years old and broke my right arm. But that was 7 years ago. I put my foot in a small dent in the bark and pulled myself up to the middle, where the trunk split into several branches. It was a nice hidden place. Suddenly, a large gust of wind swooped around me, somehow grabbing me and throwing me into the air. A tornado or hurricane? I reached wildly, trying to grab a branch to hold on to, but I was too far. The wind swept me into the sky. I felt myself dissolving into the wind, becoming part of it. I scrambled desperately in the air, but soon I was only wind. No one would remember me. I was invisible, and I still am, forever. Sometimes I still wish I could go back, make friends, but I know I will always be part of the wind, immortal. And sometimes I didn't want to be. What was the point of never dying when there was never anyone to keep you company? Even if I could be seen, if I was still immortal, then they would just move on, and I would be left, friendless once more, alone in the wind.
Wow, that is just amazing, Lena. That is just amazing. Um, that is just amazing. So, what to say? Um, that is just really amazing. I would never have imagined the character just dissolving into the wind and becoming immortal. That is a leap of imagination that is really, really, really brilliant and very appropriate for a character who is always wanting to be invisible. So in a sense, this is sort of you should be careful what you wish for. The descriptions at the beginning of her being near these other kids who are playing this basketball, baseball game is very, very nice. Those interaction where the girl comes up to her to invite her to play, and then she looks down and wishes that there was some shelter. You know, she says she wants to be under a tree. Where's the shade? There's nothing, and she's just looking out at this desolate, weedless even lot. Of course, she doesn't really want to hide under a tree. You know, she wants to hide even further and further, or further away. I mean, in the sense, if there was a tree there with a shade, that still wouldn't enable her to hide from the other kids in the way that she really wants. Again, just reinforcing what you're doing, what everybody's doing. When the girl comes right up to her, it says, "I shuddered at the thought." And then the girl calls her name Robin, she asked. And then Robin, she said, flinched at her name. So again, this visceral feelings that really make us know that these characters exist. And this is the very opposite of superficial writing. of cartoon kind of writing. This is the kind of writing that draws you really in, makes you identify with the character, and thus lets you go on a journey to some place that one might not otherwise ever go. In this case, the journey of this girl that has doesn't fit in. I mean, her home isn't exactly her home. She says, well, it's my home, but actually it's my mom and dad's home. And she climbs that tree and then dissolves into the wind, where she's confronted with the fundamental problem of immortality. Everyone says, oh, I wish I could live forever, but your friends don't live forever. Your family doesn't live forever. And so even this person with few relationships, she does recognize that the relationships them are really central to life, and life without relationships may not be such a great thing after all. So Lena, that's really nice. Thank you very much. On to the next person, possibly the last reader today.
Yeah, I think we might only have time for one more reader, and I have Nova on the list next.
Nova, actually on the list. Congratulations, Nova. Well done. Okay.
I'm in the middle of my second perspective. I did a lot of perspective on one of them.
Okay.
Sasha walked away, his face scowling, his huge, soulless black eyes roving left and right.
Slower. Nova, start over and please read slower.
Okay. Sasha walked away, his face scowling, his huge, soulless black eyes roving left and right, scanning the crowds for a sign of a pearly white door with the words principal's office imprinted on it in big black letters. After a few minutes, he saw the door the girls had described. She was probably wondering why he hadn't answered when she asked what his name was and what the weird thing he had done with his hands was when he answered Sasha in sign language. Guess the whole school is going to find out he was mute the hard way. Sasha opened the door. A lady apparently named Miss Doe, who was talking to a man named Mr. Brown, Sasha assumed was the vice principal, judging by their name tags, turned around and beamed. Hello, what's your name? Sasha sighed. Here we go again. He raised his hands to chest height and signed, Hello, my name is Sasha Gray. Miss Doe opened her eyes a little wider, raising a hand to her mouth and said, Oh, you must be the child who can't talk. She walked over to the speaker and said, Could Eleanor Doe please come to the principal's office? I repeat, could Eleanor Doe please come to the principal's office? Ella was, and now we switch to the second perspective. We go a little bit back in time. Ella was walking along the corridor, wondering about the boy that had signed Sasha when she had asked for his name. What if he was the mute boy she was supposed to translate sign language to audible sound for? Ella frowned. Suddenly she heard her mom, the principal, her voice magnified over the speakers calling for her. Could Eleanor Doe please come to the principal's office? I repeat, could Eleanor Doe please come to the principal's office? Groaning, Ella turned and started walking the other way to the principal's office. After what felt like hours trudging north, she came to her mother's office. It was room 001 on the east. She opened the door. Hi, Mom, Ella said. That was all I got.
Okay. Very nice. I really like this. So here is really a fundamental problem of relationships and how they're going to communicate with each other. That Sasha speaks with his hands rather than with his voice. That jump back in time is also really nice and gives us a narrative overlap that I can't think of someone else having done before. So that's a very, very good, nice technique to to be able to shift that perspective. I like this perspective where you've got, when somebody says hello to him and then he does this weird things with his hands. Obviously, that's a weird thing from the perspective of the other child. So you get a sense of, this other sort of view. Um, Again, at the beginning, you emphasize the eyes, so you're not the only person today to have done that. And I think it's really interesting because we do interact with our eyes. The eyes are like, um, this way we see most of us. Those of us who are fortunate not to be blind, get to see the world. I like the relationship between the mother and the daughter. It's nice that the mother's the principal and we have the child who's in the school, because that also is sort of, if you think of sort of webs of relationships, that puts down a nice link between those two characters, and also a link that presumably exists also inside the school, because if the daughter of the principal is in the school, everyone is going to relate to the daughter a little bit differently than a normal student. um, what was the last thing? Um, I also liked a lot. It's not so much about relationships, but the focus on, you've got the black eyes left and right scanning the side for the words principal's office in black letters. So again, you give the kind of detail that allows, in a very short space of time, for a character to be real. And there's many times I've gone to places. In fact, the first time I went to my daughter's high school, the offices are all on the top floor, and I remember going down that long hallway, just looking looking for that sign that would say principal's office. Very nice, very nice. Thank you, Nova. Well, thank everybody for coming, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.